Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Welcome to the OVW Programmatic New Grantee Orientation Session. This session is just one of many that OVW 2024 Cybercrimes grantees are required to attend, and we really appreciate you joining us. My name is Ann Hamilton, and I am a team lead at the Office of Violence Against Women, and I'm also your grant manager. Before we get started, I also just wanted to allow Elena to introduce herself and then also mention that our Associate Director, Krista Blakeney Mitchell, and and Sheila is also on the phone. And so if I wasn't sure if Krista wanted to say hello, but I know I just wanted to at least mention that she was on this call, but I'll first turn it over to Elena.
Thanks, Anne, and hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Elena. I've spoken, I think, with most of you, so thank you for listening in. Even though it is required, we still appreciate you listening in and paying attention. Krista, I don't know if you would like to introduce yourself.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Krista Blakeney Mitchell, Associate Director at the Office on Violence Against Women. And I'm delighted to be able to just pop on for a minute and to welcome you all and to also extend congratulations on your awards. I know you've had them for a minute, but we always like to acknowledge the process and that you all made it through the process and you're here now to work with us on having successful projects. So again, congratulations. I know you're in great hands with Anne and Elena for this presentation. And so just wish you all well. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. So next slide, please. So this is just a little agenda of what we're going to go through today. First, we'll talk about the role of OVW and the Training and Technical Assistance Team, which we'll just call the TTA team for the rest of the presentation. We'll do a little cybercrimes program overview, talk a little bit about what the program includes and the mission of the program, go through a little bit of the program requirements, such as the statutory requirements, things that were in the solicitation, and some program specific requirements, and then just touch a little bit on unallowable activities. And hopefully by the end of this brief presentation, you will understand why this program exists and some of the parameters, the roles of OVW staff, and also the role of the training and technical assistance provider, some guidance for a successful project, and where you should go if you need some help, whether this is something you should reach out to OVW for or the TTA providers for. So now we're just going to go over the role of OVW and the role of the TA team. So first, just some brief information about OVW's mission. The Office of Violence Against Women provides federal leadership in developing the national capacity to reduce violence against women and administer justice for and strengthen services to victims of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking. Also on this slide, you'll see we have some links, and those links will take you to the plethora of programs that we support and just give a little more information about OVW if you're interested in the other programs that we have. And we kind of already touched on this, but I just wanted you to see everyone's name on a slide so you can meet the official cybercrimes team. We have Krista, who we just heard from, and we have myself, who is the team lead and also will be serving as your grant manager. And then we have Elena, who is the person that kind of got this program off the ground. She is also a team lead and she works closely with the TTA providers. And then we have Sheila, who is our program analyst, and she has done a fantastic job. I'm sure you've received many emails from her. So these are everybody that's kind of been working on this project so far and that you'll likely hear from in the future. So a little bit about the role of OVW. A little bit earlier, I mentioned kind of how OVW fits into this project and kind of how you fit into this project and how our TA providers fit into this project. So OVW serves as both the funder, but we also really want to be your support system as well. We want you to have a successful project. So as the funder, we provide the oversight of any programmatic and financial activities. We review any costs, any deliverables, and we kind of just track the goals and objectives and the activities you're doing in your program. And the role of supporter, we provide that communication, guidance, and assistance as needed to grantees. As I said, we want you to be successful in your project. We love of course, we want to hear about successful things of your project, but if you are facing challenges, if you have any questions, that's what we're here for. We really want you to be able to, complete what you said you were going to complete in those 36 months, or if there's any delays to the project, anything that we can help you with programmatically, that's what we're here for. And the role of the TA provider. First, the TA is provided through the National Resource Center on Cybercrimes, and they are really the subject matter expertise and the project management assistance. They're, as we say in the slide, they're your thought partner as you kind of think through moving forward. If you see any gaps, if you need some assistance, if you realize that you need assistance with particular training, anything like that. The TA provider is Equitas and the Stalking Prevention and Resource Center, which we nicknamed SPARC, and the project partners are here listed. It's National White Collar Crime Center, Cyber Civil Rights Initiative, National Network to End Domestic Violence, Forge, and Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition. I know many of you, if not all of you, have probably already talked to your TA providers, and you also will be hearing much more from them in future new grantee orientation sessions that are currently being planned. So you'll be hearing directly from them from upcoming virtual webinars to learn a little bit more about their projects, kind of how they can help you during your time. So this is just a little bit again about who you should reach out to if you need assistance. OVW and our TA providers, we work through cooperative agreements, meaning that we're very collaborative. And we do that in order to serve you the best. As we learn from the field, those lessons impact both the TA that is offered, and conversely, anything that TA finds may be an issue that grantees may be having trouble with. That's relayed to OVW so we can initiate or any changes to the program requirements. And it really helps kind of work with any further NOFOs, funding opportunities we may have, anything particular about the program. So we really learn from you as the grantees, and we learn from the TA providers as well. So again, OVW, we kind of handle the grant administrative issues. If you need to do any grant adjustment modifications, like a change in scope, if there's changes in your staff, your budget, any sort of performance reporting, any sort of deliverables, training materials, that's who you want to reach out to, and that's what we're there to approve. And then, of course, any implementation issues you may be having with project partners, delays, things like that. And then the TA provider is there to kind of to help you develop and review any materials before they come to OVW. They can help deal with topics that is a little complex that you may need additional assistance with that you may have never encountered before. And they can, of course, help provide any training to you and your staff on any relevant topics that may come up. And now I will just hand it off to Elena to talk a little bit about the background of the Cybercrimes program.
Yeah, thanks, Anne. So we want to take a moment, right, to really learn and understand more about the program, where it originated, why it originated, what it encompasses, and what the parameters are for this program. We want to take the time now to understand the meaning behind this program and to provide the context and really lay the groundwork for what is expected for a successful project. And so the local law enforcement grants for enforcement of cybercrimes was passed in the VAWA, VAWA Reauthorization Act of 2022 and is codified in 34 USC section 30107. It is one of two new cybercrimes programs that VAWA passed. The other program, as you know, is the National Resource Center on Cybercrimes, or the NRCC, and that is the training and technical assistance provider. And I believe we even have Spark and Equitas on this call. I believe Lana, who you've all been emailing with, Lana, I think is on this call. And so they are the NRCC. They are your training and technical assistance provider for this program. And as the statute prescribes, the Cybercrimes Enforcement Program supports efforts by states, Indian tribes, and units of local government to prevent, enforce, and prosecute crimes against individuals. It includes training for law enforcement, for prosecutors, judges, and judicial personnel on cybercrimes, as well as provides assistance to agencies to enforce those laws, educate the public, support victim assistance, establish task forces, and acquire computers and equipment in order to conduct the investigations and the forensic analysis of the evidence. The goal of this program is to support the investigation and prosecution of cybercrimes occurring across this country and to provide the resources necessary to carry out this goal. The context for needing a national comprehensive program dedicated to investigating online harms and prosecuting the offenders really comes from the data that highlights the sheer volume of tech-facilitated abuse that is occurring. We know that tech abuse has become pervasive in our society. An estimated quarter of adults will experience severe online and digital harassment, such as sexual harassment, physical threats, swatting, or doxing. And we know that women in particular experience higher rates of victimization, with most of the perpetrators of that violence being men. We see that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men experience stalking victimization, with 75% of those victims reporting some kind of digital harassment. And we know that there is an intersection with other crimes, such as domestic violence. In a survey of men arrested for domestic violence, 84% of them reported using technology to harass, intimidate, or stalk the victim. And so a cornerstone of this program is to address the intersection of tech abuse with the 4 VAWA crimes of domestic violence, sexual assault, dating violence, and stalking. And so this provides the context and the framework through which this program was created and through which a successful project should be grounded in. So let's look at the statutory definition of cybercrimes and what the funds from this program can and cannot be used for. We see that cybercrimes against individuals are defined as criminal offenses that involve the use of a computer to harass, threaten, stalk, extort, coerce, cause fear to, or intimidate an individual, or without consent distribute intimate images of an adult, except that the use of a computer need not be an element of the offense. And when we look closely at this definition, we see that it denotes what are essentially the crimes of cyberstalking and image-based abuse. But the drafters of this statute were intentional in the language that they chose to include. We see that only intimate images of an adult can be investigated, prosecuted, and adjudicated with funds from this program. This program is not intended to address intimate images of minors. Moreover, this program was put in place to fill a gap in our system. It is a direct call for communities to address the digital and online abuse that is occurring for adults, but is not taken as seriously as those crimes that occur to minors, or perhaps there isn't enough funding or a dedicated unit to address these types of crimes that are occurring with adults. But now there is. And so the statute uses the word individual when it refers to harassment, threats, stalking, intimidation, but it is very clear that only intimate images of an adult, not an individual, are permissible for this program. And so this is why activities related to images of minors are unallowable under this program. This appears in both the solicitation under which you applied and in the award conditions agreed to when the award was accepted. And so I want to pause here for just a moment to see if there are any questions about anything that's been covered so far, anything that Anne has covered, or anything right now leading up to this in terms of where the statute came about, why it came about, and how we're implementing this program. I'm not sure I can see the, oh, maybe if I like cover, oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there isn't anything in the Q&A right now.
Okay. If you all have questions, you can put it in the Q&A. If you feel comfortable, although just remember this is being recorded, you're more than welcome to take yourselves off mute and ask your question if you do have a question. All right, so we'll keep going. So just to finish out the definition of cybercrimes, it's in the statute. This program is only to investigate crimes against individuals and is not to be used against a non-natural person, such as a commercial entity or a government agency. So for instance, even if there is a digital breach of information at your agency, right, a law enforcement agency, or maybe your prosecutor's office, you cannot use program funds to investigate it. It has to be against an individual. And so when we think about that, we certainly can go down the rabbit hole of what is tech facilitated abuse or what is a cybercrime. But for purposes of this program, we really are trying to limit it to things that are, again, related to gender-based violence, crimes that are occurring against the women and young adults online. And so when we look at some examples, we see that I'm so sorry, let me just back up a second. We see that an example of what it is that an ex-partner, usually a male, doesn't have to be, but usually a male, is misusing technology to surveil and stalk an ex-girlfriend. This would be an example of intimate partner violence, using technology with intimate partner violence. This could be done via GPS tracker in or on a car. Maybe the ex-partner is using an app on the phone, an Apple AirTag. It might be setting up cameras in the house or hacking into the connected devices in the home to listen in on conversations. But somehow this ex-partner, and it doesn't have to be an ex-partner, but in this example, the ex-partner is using technology to surveil and monitor the ex-girlfriend. Another example might be a female social media influencer who is being harassed online by a male user simply because she is a woman. The abuser might create fake sites about the influencer. They might dox or release personally identifying information, or they might call for internet pylons, right, where a group of people unknown to the victim completely just sent a barrage of insults and online harassment. And so this is an example of non-intimate partner violence, but still, right, looking at how we see the intersection of tech abuse with gender-based violence. So even though one is intimate partner and one is a stranger on the internet, both still can be investigated and prosecuted and adjudicated with funds under this program. So I want to look now at an example, or two examples, I think, of what tech facilitated abuse really isn't in the context of this program. Not to say that this would not be allowed, but when we look at the intent behind this program, when we look at the solicitation that you all applied under and the projects that were proposed, right, things that fall on this slide might not be exactly in keeping with the intent of the program. So for instance, right, you have someone who is targeting an older adult through the phone or internet with the intent to defraud them. And while this uses technology to commit the crime, we know that this is based more on age and not gender, right? Because they're targeting older adults. So still a cybercrime, still an internet-based crime, but again, it's falling more towards victimization based on age. Another example of what tech abuse wouldn't necessarily be under this program is that you have, say, a male activist of a particular faith that is receiving threats of physical harm to him and his family, and it's because of his religion or political views. And again, while this uses technology to weaponize speech and to hate speech, the victimization that is occurring and the harm that is occurring is based more on religion or political views and not necessarily based on gender. And again, it's not that these are unallowable, it's just, again, in trying to keep with the intent behind this program. And so coming full circle, the solicitation requires that each applicant describe how the proposed project would address the intersection of tech-facilitated abuse with the 4 VAWA crimes, right? Domestic violence, sexual assault, dating violence, and stalking. And so each project is required to include activities and training that address this intersection. It doesn't have to be the only crimes investigated, as I just said, but it really should be the primary focus of this project. And the goal should be to investigate, prosecute, and adjudicate cases involving this intersection, particularly for adult and young adult individuals. And young adult individuals are those ages 18 to 24. That's considered a young adult. So even though you are now funded, you must still comply with the solicitation requirements and the projects that were proposed in your application. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Anne so she can talk more about the specific requirements for this program.
Great, thank you. Wait for the next slide. So I'm not going to obviously read the whole statutory authority. It's listed right there that funds under this program must be used for one or more of the 10 purpose areas that were outlined in the statute. The main programmatic requirement is grantees are required to address purpose area 1 and or purpose area number 2. Of course, grantees may choose to address additional purpose areas, and there is no limit to the number of purpose areas that you can address. So first, purpose area 1. Every grantee that was funded in FY 2024 is completing this purpose area number 1 activities, which is training for law enforcement personnel. This means training for state, tribal, or local law enforcement personnel relating to cybercrimes, including training to identify and protect victims, training to utilize federal, state, local, and other resources to assist victims, and training to identify and investigate cybercrimes. Further, it is for training to enforce and utilize the laws that prohibit cybercrimes, training to utilize technology to assist in the investigation, and the payment of any overtime that may be incurred as a result of such training. So here it says a comprehensive training should encompass elements from A through E from the previous slide. And it will assist in the investigation of these crimes. And part of developing or refining the training for your community, your state, is to work collaboratively with your required project partner. I wasn't sure, I know we can't see everyone, so I wasn't sure if you could just write in the chat if you are participating, if you're part of the victim service provider on the call. If anyone wants to put that in the chat. So briefly look through. So hopefully there are some people from the victim service providers on this call, and it was a requirement to be working with that victim service provider. Each training should be victim-centered and trauma-informed. Okay, next slide. Here's just a little bit about purpose area number 2, which is training for prosecutors, judges, and judicial personnel. Training should identify, investigate, prosecute, or adjudicate cybercrimes, and training such personnel to utilize laws that prohibit cybercrimes. And out of the grantees, we have 6 grantees are also focusing on the specific training for prosecutors, judge, and judicial personnel. And further about purpose area number 2, training to utilize federal, state, tribal, local, and other resources, and training to utilize technology, including the use of technology to protect victims of such crimes. And again, this comprehensive training should include all of the elements of A through D. And hopefully you will work collaboratively with your required partner to develop or further hone this training that's being delivered. Of course, work with OVW and also work with your TTA providers. So a little bit, now I'm just going to talk a little bit about understanding the program requirements. I know Elena mentioned a little bit before about certain things that are unallowable, but I'm just going to talk a little bit about what is mandatory, the makings of a successful project, and activities that are unallowable. So some program requirements. Every project must engage in the following activities. You must participate in OVW sponsored training and technical assistance. That is, attending this new grantee orientation. That is participating in any sort of virtual webinars, any sort of in-person trainings that the training and technical assistance providers may lead in coordination with OVW. And you also must collect and report on your performance indicators. Those are the performance reports and the performance measures that you actually all just submitted. And I actually think everyone on the call, all of the cybercrimes grantees are in compliance with this. So I received all the reports. Haven't reviewed them all yet, but thank you for following this program requirement. And it is also participation in any assessment or evaluation if OVW conducts one that requires grantee involvement. And it's also to establish or continue a coordinated community response, CCR team, to improve responses to cybercrimes against individuals within the first 6 months of this award. The primary focus of the CCR team must be preventing, enforcing, and prosecuting these crimes. Okay, a little bit more about your program requirements. Of course, it's to address the intersection of the 4 crimes with technology facilitated abuse and cybercrimes against individuals, and it's to implement those statutory purpose areas 1 and or 2 that we talked about previously regarding training. And as I mentioned, partnering with the victim service provider. And some of you have also part of your activities is to implement purpose area number 8, and the requirement under that is to spend no more than 50% of your award on purchasing equipment. I believe that is also one of your special conditions if that is one of your purpose area you're addressing. Okay, so I know when you accepted your award, you were a little bit maybe overwhelmed with all the special conditions that came along with it. I believe there were 47 that are specific to cybercrimes, and then there were an additional 2 that may have been related to sort of financial budget clearances and things like that. So there are 47 for you to familiar yourselves with. I'm not going to go through them all now. You had to when you accepted your award, that award acceptance was essentially saying that you acknowledged and would be in compliance with these special conditions. So some are federal regulations. You'll see this on every federal award, but then some are very OVW and some are very program specific to this. So I know there's a lot of them. Like I said, I'm not going to go through them all, but I am just going to point out a few right now to kind of specifically address. So first we have number 1, this is compliance with the solicitation requirements. Elena mentioned this earlier. When you applied for this award and you accepted these funds, it was to be in compliance with the requirements that were in the solicitation that you applied for in FY 2024. This essentially just says you must be in compliance with those requirements outlined in the solicitation under which your approved application was submitted, any companion guides, any program-specific FAQs, and are hereby incorporated and you can reference for that award. And that can all be found in that link that we have to the OVW programs that we referenced earlier. Number 46 is continuing compliance with the statutory requirements. This essentially just acknowledges that you have the obligation to remain in compliance with the certification requirements of that statute that I'm not going to read again. And then number 47 is the prohibition of activities related to the distribution of intimate images of a minor. As Elena has mentioned, you must have agreed that funds under this program may not be used to support activities related to the distribution of intimate images of a minor. Oh, I just lost my stuff. And also, this one, we just wanted to pull this out because this might get overlooked. This one is related to a policy in response to workplace-related incidents of sexual misconduct, domestic violence, and dating violence. It says that any recipient or subrecipient must have a policy or issue a policy within 270 days of your award date, which was, they all started on October 1st, to address workplace-related incidents of sexual misconduct, domestic violence, dating violence involving an employee, volunteer, consultant, or contractor. We have the link there to visit if you want to see that award condition, but again, it is in your award package. Hopefully you all have a copy of that. And then we're not requiring you to submit this as a deliverable. We don't need your policy, but we're just kind of putting this there. If you are to receive a monitoring visit anytime, we may be asking for this policy, or really at any time we can ask if you have this policy in place. And again, there are about 47 special conditions. So please make sure that you read through those. I know it can be a lot, but you really want to familiarize yourself with them and make sure any sort of sub-grantees or project partners also have received a copy of that award package so they know about these special conditions as well. And now I will hand it back over to Elena.
Thanks, Anne. We can pause for a moment if anyone has any questions on any of the award conditions. Always welcome to reach out to us and ask, of course, especially as you begin to implement your projects. If you are concerned, we certainly would rather you ask than be out of compliance. So to wrap up today's session, I just want to touch on where we're at in the process. Excuse me. First of all, thank you to all of you for your patience as we hit the pause button. We regrouped, we planned this virtual NGO so that you all could learn more about this program, more about the context of it, why it originated, and why you're tasked with doing the work that you're tasked with. And so, as you know, there are more virtual sessions for you to watch now. I had recently sent out another checklist that included a few more webinars from OVW that we thought would be important for you to watch. Those are listed on the TA to TA website that we'll see a screenshot of in just a second. Most recently, thank you to those of you who likely participated in the Grants Financial Management Division webinar last month. I believe each grantee was on that call, which is fabulous. Again, thank you. And GFMD is always available if you have questions, financial questions, budget questions are always available to help you, as we are too, but we are not the budget and financial people. So either way, you can go. You can reach out to us, or you can reach out directly to GFMD if you have questions. And second, as I indicated, you have a new NGO checklist. If you do not have that in your inbox, if you don't recall getting it, maybe drop your name in the chat now, or just email us. I'm happy to send out the revised checklist to you. Again, it includes other additional OVW office-wide sessions that weren't previously required, but are required. So just take a moment to look at it. It may take you, a few extra hours to watch the webinars that are on there. So please plan to do that. And then at the end, So this will be the last session from OVW, the last live session. Everything else has already been recorded. You're going to go to the TA to TA website and watch those recordings if you haven't completed everything already. And then you will submit your checklist form as a deliverable in Just Grants for approval. All right, so this is the TA to TA website. This is where you will go to watch the newly added webinar recordings on the OVW checklist. You just click up here in the upper right corner, the Orientations tab, and then you're going to scroll down until you find this particular program, which is the Local Law Enforcement Grants for Enforcement of Cybercrimes. Once you click that, it's going to take you to a page that has all the webinars listed there, and you can watch them at your convenience. Please note that on the checklist, we do indicate who should be watching these webinars. So for the OVW office-wide ones, a lot of times that's going to be the grant award administrator. That's going to be the authorized rep in some cases. The financial point of contact should have been on the GFMD session. So just pay attention to who the call is for who should be watching that. All right, I think that's it for that. And then just to wrap up the last thing about this program, I feel like we've gone over this so many times, but it is important to note it here. This again comes from the solicitation. It's in your award conditions. So just remember that some of the unallowable activities, not some, these are the unallowable activities. These include one, that funds cannot be used to conduct research. I don't think any of you are doing that, so probably not a problem. Funds may also not be used to support activities related to the distribution of intimate images of a minor. And finally, funds may not be used to support activities related to cybercrimes that include the use of a computer to cause harm to a commercial entity or government agency or non-natural person. So these are really your three totally out of scope, unallowable activities. We should not be seeing any of this in your performance reports or listed as the activities that you engaged in for your drawdown reports. And so in summary, we know that this is a new statute under VAWA. We know it's a new program. You all are the very first cohort of grantees ever, which is really special, I think. We know that this was passed in VAWA as a response to the pervasive tech-facilitated gender-based violence that is experienced by adults and young adults that frequently goes unreported or underreported and is maybe not investigated or prosecuted to the fullest extent possible under those state laws. So please read your award conditions and review the 2024 solicitation. Both matter and both will help you implement a successful project. Please be sure to reach out to Anne or even me or anyone here at OVW if you have a question on anything. We are here to help you. Literally, when in doubt, please ask, because that is why we're here, is to help you and assist you. And then finally, just our contact information here at the end. Many of you have emailed us already, so you have it, but just in case, you can reach out to either one of us individually. We also have the Cybercrimes inbox that you can reach out to. And a little bit of a plug, if now that you're funded, you are interested in becoming a peer reviewer and you'd like to come back in and review applications for the FY25 NOFO when it's released, please email us or email this OVW peer review inbox and think about, maybe becoming a peer reviewer, particularly for this program. I think that would be really great to have your level of expertise for this next round of applications that are going to be coming in. And so this concludes the Cybercrimes Enforcement NGO program session. Please watch the other recordings and be sure to attend the upcoming TA sessions. you will be receiving an email from Lana with the TA about these upcoming sessions shortly. And so with that, I will turn it back over to Anne if you have any final things to say.
I don't have anything else to say. Again, please reach out. The Cybercrimes email inbox. Sheila is very helpful in us keeping track of any questions or things that may come in. And then you can, of course, always reach out to me directly since I am your grant manager regarding any sort of questions you may have, any sort of GAM, deliverables, anything that's while I'm here. That's why I'm here. So please feel free to reach out.
All right, and I see there's like one question, but if you all could email us that question, we will respond if we can.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.